This prepares the bishop for development. The bishop is ready to be developed to an active square. This prepares the bishop for development. This threatens to capture a pawn and win material after the follow-on trades. This stops the opponent from being able to tactically win a pawn. Recaptures. This overlooks a better way to win a tempo by threatening a queen. This moves the queen to safety. Black's knight has moved to a square with greater activity and control. The knight finds a new active square. This overlooks an opportunity to castle kingside. That leaves a rook open to being captured. Capturing that rook wins material. Takes back. The game was close to balanced, but now black is worse. The knight is kicked by a pawn and must now move or be captured. This misses a better way to move a knight to safety. This permits the opponent to sacrifice a knight for a nice tactic. The knight was sacrificed, a brilliant move. That was a free knight. White's piece has moved to a square with greater activity and control. This move puts the pawn on a safer square. This threatens to force eventual checkmate. This stops the opponent from being able to force eventual checkmate. This threatens to play checkmate. This protects an underdefended knight that is under attack. This threatens to win material by eventually trapping a piece. This loses a bishop. This wins a bishop. The piece finds a new active square. White attacks a trapped piece and will win material. This threatens to tactically win a pawn. This misses an opportunity to capture a free bishop. This captures a queen and eliminates a threat. The pawn reaches the back rank and promotes to a queen. Recaptures. This is the only move that works. Recaptures from a previous move. The pawn is now passed because it can no longer be challenged by pawns as it tries to promote. This threatens to eventually win a pawn. Right on target. With the rook now developed as well, white has all pieces ready for action. This wins a tempo by threatening a bishop and forcing it to move away. This move puts the bishop on a safer square. This threatens to win material through a tactic. This leads to losing a pawn. This wins a pawn. Takes back. This wins a pawn by kicking away a critical defender. This is the only good move. This move puts the knight on a safer square. This wins a pawn. This moves the rook to safety. That pawn was free for the taking. This overlooks an opportunity to win a tempo by threatening a rook. There was only one good move there. This is the only move that works. This steps away from the checking rook. This is the only good move. This moves the bishop to a better location, allowing it to control more squares. This steps away from the checking bishop. Now black can't stop white from winning a pawn if they make the right moves. This kicks a knight. This overlooks a better way to move a knight to safety. This overlooks a better way to move a rook to safety. White still has an advantage, but they no longer have a winning position. Black was worse off, but now they are in a losing position. This prevents the opponent from being able to create a passed pawn. A solid choice. This threatens to play checkmate. This stops the opponent from being able to play checkmate. Now black can't stop white from winning material if they make the right moves. This threatens to play checkmate. E5 is a common response that establishes a presence in the center, controls d4, and opens up the queen and dark squared bishop. Knight f3 develops the knight toward the center, attacks the e5 pawn, and prepares to castle. Knight c6 develops the knight toward the center, protects the pawn on e5, and eyes the d4 square. The Ruy-Lopez opening develops the bishop to immediately attack the knight on c6, the lone defender of the e5 pawn. Knight f6 develops the knight and attacks the undefended e4 pawn. Castling gets the king out of the center and activates the rook. Knight takes e4, captures the e4 pawn, and places the knight in the center of the board where it controls many important squares. d4 opens up the center, attacks the e5 pawn, and allows the dark squared bishop to develop. Knight d6 retreats the knight to a central square where it attacks the bishop on b5. Bishop takes c6, captures the knight and forces black to double the c-pawns. D takes c6, captures the bishop, opens up the d file, and allows the light-squared bishop to develop. D takes e5, captures the e5 pawn, attacks the knight on d6, and controls the f6 square. Knight f5 moves the knight to an active square, where it controls d4. Queen takes d8 check trades queens and stops black from castling. King takes d8 recaptures the queen. Knight c3 develops the knight toward the center and controls the d5 and e4 squares. Bishop d7 develops the light-squared bishop and opens the c8 square for the king. This creates space for the king to move in case it is attacked. Solid. Continuing with standard opening theory. This is a book move, meaning it follows established opening theory, played by top players for years. One of the best moves. The rooks can see each other now, allowing them to provide mutual defense. Very precise. This takes an open file, a common method for activating a rook. That's not a mistake, but it's not the best move either. A solid choice. A very strong play. This is the strongest option. This attacks white's pawn chain. This leads to losing a pawn. This moves the bishop to a more active square, making it gain scope. This permits the opponent to force doubling of castle pawns. This misses an opportunity to force doubling of castle pawns. This allows the opponent to create a passed pawn. The pawn is now passed because it can no longer be challenged by pawns as it tries to promote. This makes a passed pawn. This misses an opportunity to set up a blockade. This permits the opponent to develop a piece while also winning a tempo on a rook. Black's piece claims an outpost, adding pressure with tempo. This wins a bishop. The pawn is now passed because it can no longer be challenged by pawns as it tries to promote. This misses an opportunity to win a bishop by pinning a piece. This is the only good move. This blocks white's pawn. Now black can't stop white from winning material if they make the right moves. This is the only move that works. This wins material. This stops the opponent from being able to kick a knight. This captures a free rook. Recaptures. This wins time by threatening a bishop and forcing it to move away. This move puts the bishop on a safer square. This overlooks an opportunity to win a pawn by eventually kicking a key defender. This permits the opponent to win a tempo by threatening a bishop. This wins a tempo by threatening a bishop and forcing it to move away. This move puts the bishop on a safer square. This attacks a bishop, winning a tempo when it moves away. This misses a better way to move a bishop to safety. This allows the opponent to win a tempo by threatening a bishop. The rook is now on an open file, which helps control squares across the board. This wins time by threatening a rook and forcing it to move away. This wins a tempo by threatening a bishop and forcing it to move away. This moves the bishop to safety. This is not the right idea. This threatens to tactically win a knight. Right on target. That's fine. This defends the attacked pawn. Very precise. White now has a dangerous passed pawn. This overlooks an opportunity to take an open file with a rook. This allows the opponent to take an open file with a rook. This takes an open file, a common method for activating a rook. This overlooks an opportunity to win a tempo by threatening a rook. This passed pawn is a strong asset for white. This overlooks an opportunity to create a pawn chain. Takes back. Black will be winning material with that fork. This is the only move that works. This removes a knight that put the king in check. That was a free rook. This moves the rook to safety. This is the only good move. This evades the check from the rook. This threatens to eventually win a rook. This stops the opponent from being able to eventually win a rook. This leaves a rook without defenders. That rook was free for the taking. Now black can't stop white from winning a rook if they make the right moves. The game is still close to even, but black lost their winning advantage. That was a free pawn. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. This is the way to win a rook. This is the strongest option. Recaptures. Right on target. This threatens to create a protected passed pawn. This misses an opportunity to capture a free pawn. That was a free pawn. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. Pushing a passed pawn. Very precise. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. This is the only good move, pushing a passed pawn. The pawn reaches the back rank and promotes to a queen. This promotes a pawn to a queen. This steps away from the checking queen. This is the strongest option. This steps away from the checking queen. Right on target. This steps away from the checking queen. Very precise. This steps away from the checking queen. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. This threatens to tactically win a pawn. This prevents the opponent from being able to tactically win a pawn. This evades the check from the queen. This is the only move that works. This evades the check from the queen. This is the strongest option. This evades the check from the queen. The game was close to equal, but now white has the advantage. This is the only good move. This blocks the check from an opposing queen. This permits the opponent to eventually win a pawn. This is the way to win a pawn. This evades the check from the queen. One of the best moves. This steps away from the checking queen. This misses an opportunity to win material through a tactic. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. pushing a passed pawn. The game was close to balanced, but now white has a winning position. This took advantage of a mistake, and white now has a winning advantage. This prevents the opponent from being able to promote a pawn to a piece. This evades the check from the queen. White lost their winning advantage, and now the game is close to equal. This misses a better way to evade the check from the opposing queen. Right on target. This evades the check from the queen. This threatens to force eventual checkmate. This prevents the opponent from being able to force eventual checkmate. This wins material. This threatens to force eventual checkmate. The pawn reaches the back rank and promotes to a queen. A solid choice. This steps away from the checking queen. White still has an advantage, but they no longer have a winning position. This permits the opponent to play checkmate. And the game is over.